Hello and welcome to Mr. Paul Stories. If you're a fan of dramatic, emotional, and relatable tales about love, betrayal, and second chances, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss a story. Now, let's dive into today's tale. What happens when a successful CEO's perfect life is shattered by a secret affair? In today's story, we follow Marcus, a wealthy and powerful man, and his wife Elena, as their marriage is tested by betrayal, lies, and the struggle to rebuild trust. Will they find their way back to each other, or will the affair destroy everything they've built? Stay tuned to find out. The penthouse was a masterpiece of modern design, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a breathtaking view of the city skyline. The living room was bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun, casting a warm, golden light over the sleek furniture and tasteful decor. A vase of fresh flowers sat on the coffee table, their vibrant colors adding a touch of life to the otherwise minimalist space. Eleanor stood by the window, her arms crossed as she gazed out at the bustling streets below. She was a vision of elegance, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders and her emerald green dress hugging her figure perfectly. But despite the luxurious surroundings, there was a hint of sadness in her eyes, a quiet ache that she couldn't quite shake. Behind her, the sound of a key turning in the lock broke the silence. She turned to see her husband Marcus stepping into the apartment, his tailored suit and polished shoes a testament to his success. He was the CEO of one of the city's most prestigious companies, a man who commanded respect and admiration wherever he went. But to Elena, he was simply the man she had fallen in love with all those years ago. "Hey," Marcus said, his voice warm but tired as he set his briefcase down by the door. "Sorry I'm late. Another endless meeting." Eleanor forced a smile, pushing aside her own feelings of loneliness. "It's okay. I understand." Marcus crossed the room and kissed her on the cheek, his touch familiar but distant. "You're amazing. You know that? Always so patient with me." Eleanor's smile faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered. "Dinner's ready if you're hungry." Marcus nodded, loosening his tie as he followed her into the dining room. The table was set with their finest china, the candles flickering softly in the dim light. It was a scene straight out of a magazine, but to Elena, it felt hollow. As they ate, Marcus talked about his day, the deals he had closed, and the challenges he had faced. Elena listened, nodding and smiling at all the right moments. But her mind was elsewhere. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, that the man sitting across from her was slowly slipping away. "You've been quiet tonight," Marcus said, his brow furrowing in concern. "Is everything okay?" Eleanor hesitated, unsure of how to put her feelings into words. "I'm fine, just tired, I guess." Marcus reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I know I've been busy lately, but it's just temporary. Once things settle down at work, we'll take that vacation we've been talking about, just the two of us." Elena nodded, but the promise felt empty. They had been down this road before, and she knew how it always ended, with Marcus buried in work and her left to pick up the pieces. Later that night, as they lay in bed, Elena stared at the ceiling, her mind racing. She thought about the late-night phone calls Marcus had been taking, the way he would quickly end the conversation when she walked into the room. She thought about the faint scent of perfume on his jacket, the one he claimed was from a client meeting. She wanted to believe him, to trust that he was the same man she had married. But deep down, she knew something had changed. And as she drifted off to sleep, she couldn't shake the feeling that their perfect life was nothing more than an illusion. The office was a hive of activity, the hum of keyboards and the murmur of conversations filling the air. Marcus sat at his desk, his eyes scanning the latest financial reports as he sipped his coffee. The morning sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a warm glow over the sleek, modern space. He was in his element here, surrounded by the trappings of success, the polished mahogany desk, the framed awards on the wall, the constant buzz of productivity. But despite the outward appearance of control, there was a restlessness in him, a gnawing sense of dissatisfaction that he couldn't quite shake. The door to his office opened, and his assistant, Clara, stepped inside. She was young and ambitious, with a sharp mind and a quick smile that had caught Marcus's attention from the moment she joined the company. Today, she was dressed in a tailored blouse and pencil skirt, her dark hair pulled back into a sleek ponytail. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," she said, her voice bright and professional. "I have the updated projections for the quarterly meeting. Would you like to go over them now?" Marcus nodded, gesturing for her to take a seat. "Yes, let's get started." Clara sat down across from him, her posture poised and confident. As she began to explain the numbers, Marcus found himself distracted by the way her eyes lit up when she spoke, the way her hands moved with precision and grace. There was something about her energy, her drive, that reminded him of himself when he was younger. "You've done an excellent job with this," Marcus said when she finished, his tone appreciative. "I'm impressed." Clara smiled, a hint of pride in her expression. "Thank you, Mr. Carter. I've been working hard to make sure everything is perfect." "It shows," Marcus replied, his gaze lingering on her for a moment longer than necessary. As the weeks went by, Marcus found himself spending more and more time with Clara. They worked late into the night, poring over reports and strategizing for upcoming meetings. The line between professional and personal began to blur, and Marcus found himself drawn to her in a way he hadn't expected. One evening, as they were wrapping up a particularly grueling session, Clara suggested they grab a drink to unwind. Marcus hesitated for a moment, the image of Elena, waiting at home, flashing in his mind. But the thought of returning to the quiet, empty penthouse was unappealing, and he found himself nodding in agreement. They went to a nearby bar, a cozy spot with dim lighting and a relaxed atmosphere. As they sipped their drinks, the conversation turned from work to more personal topics. Clara talked about her dreams and ambitions, her passion for her work, and her desire to make a name for herself in the industry. Marcus listened intently, captivated by her enthusiasm and drive. Before he knew it, hours had passed, and the bar was closing. They stepped out into the cool night air, the city lights casting a soft glow around them. "I had a great time tonight," Clara said, her voice warm and genuine. "So did I," Marcus replied, his heart pounding in his chest. There was a moment of silence, the tension between them palpable. Then, without thinking, Marcus leaned in and kissed her. It was a fleeting, impulsive gesture, but it sent a jolt of electricity through him. Clara pulled back, her eyes wide with surprise. "Marcus." "I'm sorry," he said quickly, his voice filled with regret. "I shouldn't have done that." But Clara shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. "Don't be sorry." And just like that, the affair began. The penthouse was quiet, the only sound the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. Elena sat on the couch, a book in her hands, but her mind was far from the words on the page. She had been feeling increasingly uneasy over the past few weeks, a sense of dread that she couldn't quite shake. Marcus had been distant, his late nights at the office becoming more frequent, his excuses more elaborate. At first, she had believed him, trusting that his dedication to his work was just a phase. But as the days turned into weeks, she couldn't ignore the growing suspicion that something was wrong. The sound of the front door opening pulled her from her thoughts. She looked up to see Marcus stepping inside, his tie loosened and his hair slightly disheveled. "Hey," he said, his voice tired but warm. "Sorry I'm late again. Another endless meeting." Elena forced a smile, setting her book aside. It's okay. I understand. Marcus crossed the room and kissed her on the cheek, his touch familiar but distant. You're amazing, you know that? Always so patient with me. Elena's smile faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered. Dinner's ready if you're hungry. Marcus nodded, loosening his tie as he followed her into the dining room. The table was set with their finest china, the candles flickering softly in the dim light. It was a scene straight out of a magazine, but to Elena it felt hollow. As they ate, Marcus talked about his day, the deals he had closed, and the challenges he had faced. Elena listened, nodding and smiling at all the right moments, but her mind was elsewhere. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, that the man sitting across from her was slowly slipping away. You've been quiet tonight, Marcus said, his brow furrowing in concern. Is everything okay? Elena hesitated, unsure of how to put her feelings into words. I'm fine. Just tired, I guess. Marcus reached across the table, taking her hand in his. I know I've been busy lately, but it's just temporary. Once things settle down at work, we'll take that vacation we've been talking about. Just the two of us. Elena nodded, but the promise felt empty. They had been down this road before, and she knew how it always ended, with Marcus buried in work and her left to pick up the pieces. Later that night, as they lay in bed, Elena stared at the ceiling, her mind racing. She thought about the late-night phone calls Marcus had been taking, the way he would quickly end the conversation when she walked into the room. She thought about the faint scent of perfume on his jacket, the one he claimed was from a client meeting. She wanted to believe him, to trust that he was the same man she had married. But deep down, she knew something had changed. And as she drifted off to sleep, she couldn't shake the feeling that their perfect life was nothing more than an illusion. The company's annual gala was in full swing, the grand ballroom filled with the city's elite. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, casting a soft golden glow over the room. The air was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and the sound of laughter and clinking glasses. Elena stood near the entrance, her elegant gown flowing around her as she scanned the room. She had been hesitant to attend the event, but Marcus had insisted, saying it was important for them to make an appearance together. As she made her way through the crowd, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had been growing inside her. Marcus had been distant lately, his excuses for late nights at the office becoming more frequent. She had tried to push her suspicions aside, but the nagging doubt refused to go away. She spotted Marcus across the room, deep in conversation with a group of colleagues. He looked every bit the successful CEO, his tailored suit and confident demeanor commanding attention. But as she watched him, she noticed something that made her heart skip a beat. Standing beside him was a young woman, her dark hair pulled back into a sleek ponytail, her tailored dress accentuating her figure. They were standing close, their heads bent together as they talked, and there was an intimacy in their body language that made Elena's stomach churn. She tried to push the thought aside, telling herself she was overreacting. But as she watched them, the pieces began to fall into place. The late-night phone calls, the scent of perfume on his jacket, the growing distance between them. Her heart pounding, Elena made her way across the room, her eyes never leaving Marcus and the woman. As she approached, Marcus looked up, his expression shifting from surprise to guilt in an instant. "Elena," he said, his voice strained. "I didn't expect to see you here." Elena's eyes flicked to the woman beside him, her gaze sharp and accusing. "Who's your friend?" Marcus hesitated, his discomfort palpable. "This is Clara, my assistant. Clara, this is my wife, Elena." Clara smiled, but there was a nervous edge to her expression. "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Carter." Elena's eyes narrowed as she studied Clara, her mind racing. She could see the way Marcus and Clara looked at each other, the subtle cues that betrayed their relationship. "How long has this been going on?" Elena asked, her voice low and trembling with anger. Marcus's face paled, and he glanced around, clearly hoping no one was listening. "Elena, let's not do this here." But Elena was beyond caring about appearances. "How long, Marcus?" Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is," Elena demanded, her voice rising. The room had grown quiet, the other guests watching the scene unfold with a mix of curiosity and discomfort. Marcus grabbed Elena's arm, his grip firm as he led her to a quieter corner of the room. "Elena, please," he said, his voice pleading, "let's talk about this at home." But Elena was done waiting. "Tell me the truth, Marcus. Are you having an affair with her?" Marcus hesitated, his eyes filled with guilt and regret. "Elena, answer me!" Marcus sighed, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "Yes, I'm sorry." Elena's heart shattered at his words, the pain and betrayal cutting deeper than she ever thought possible. She took a step back, her eyes filled with tears. "How could you?" she whispered, her voice breaking. Marcus reached out to her, but she pulled away, shaking her head. "Don't touch me." With that, she turned and walked away, her heart heavy with the weight of his betrayal. The penthouse was eerily quiet, the only sound the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. Elena sat on the couch, her arms wrapped around herself as she stared into the empty fireplace. The events of the gala played over and over in her mind. The image of Marcus and Clara together burned into her memory. She had left the event without a word, her heart heavy with the weight of Marcus's betrayal. She had taken a cab home, her mind racing with 1,000 thoughts and emotions. She had always trusted Marcus, believed in the love they shared. But now, that trust was shattered, and she didn't know how to pick up the pieces. The sound of the front door opening pulled her from her thoughts. She looked up to see Marcus stepping inside, his tie loosened and his hair slightly disheveled. He looked tired, his face drawn and his eyes shadowed with guilt. "Elena," he said, his voice soft and hesitant, "we need to talk." Elena nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She had been dreading this moment, but she knew it was inevitable. Marcus sat down across from her, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. "I'm so sorry, Elena. I never meant to hurt you." Elena's eyes filled with tears, but she forced herself to stay calm. "How long has it been going on?" Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. "A few months. It started as just work, but then what?" Elena demanded, her voice trembling with anger. Marcus looked down, his guilt palpable. "I don't know, it just happened. I never meant for it to go this far." Elena shook her head, her tears spilling over. "How could you, Marcus? How could you betray me like this?" Marcus reached out to her, but she pulled away, shaking her head. "Don't touch me." Marcus sighed, his shoulders slumping in defeat. "I know I messed up, Elena, but I love you. I want to make this right." Elena's heart ached at his words, but the pain of his betrayal was too fresh. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Marcus." Marcus nodded, his eyes filled with regret. "I understand. But please, give me a chance to make it up to you." Elena hesitated, her mind racing. She wanted to believe him, to trust that he was sincere. But the image of him and Clara together was seared into her mind, and she didn't know if she could ever move past it. "I need time," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus nodded, his expression filled with sadness. "I understand. Take all the time you need." With that, he stood up and walked away, leaving Elena alone with her thoughts. The days following the confrontation at the gala were a blur for Elena. She had moved into the guest room, needing space to process everything that had happened. Marcus had respected her wishes, giving her the distance she needed, but the tension in the penthouse was palpable. Elena spent her days wandering the city, trying to clear her mind. But the weight of Marcus's betrayal followed her everywhere she went. She couldn't stop thinking about the affair, about the lies and the deceit. She had always trusted Marcus, believed in the love they shared. But now that trust was shattered, and she didn't know how to move forward. One evening, as she sat in a quiet cafe, sipping a cup of tea, her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Can we talk? I'm at the park. Please." Eleanor hesitated, her heart pounding in her chest. She wasn't sure if she was ready to face him, but she knew they couldn't keep avoiding each other. She took a deep breath and texted back, "I'll be there." The park was quiet, the soft glow of the streetlights casting long shadows on the path. Eleanor spotted Marcus sitting on a bench, his head in his hands. He looked up as she approached, his eyes filled with a mix of hope and fear. "Eleanor," he said, his voice soft and hesitant, "thank you for coming." Elena nodded, sitting down beside him. "What did you want to talk about?" Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about us, about what happened." Elena's heart ached at his words, but she forced herself to stay calm. "And?" Marcus turned to her, his eyes filled with regret. "I know I messed up, Elena. I know I hurt you, and I'll never forgive myself for that. But I love you. I want to make this right." Elena's eyes filled with tears, but she shook her head. "I don't know if I can trust you again, Marcus." Marcus nodded, his expression filled with sadness. "I understand. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn back your trust. Counseling, therapy, whatever you need. I just want a chance to make things right." Elena hesitated, her mind racing. She wanted to believe him, to trust that he was sincere. But the pain of his betrayal was still fresh, and she didn't know if she could ever move past it. "I need time," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here, waiting for you." With that, he stood up and walked away, leaving Elena alone with her thoughts. The weeks following their conversation in the park were a time of healing and reflection for both Elena and Marcus. They had started attending couples counseling, working through the pain and betrayal that had torn them apart. It wasn't easy. There were moments of anger, frustration, and doubt, but they were committed to rebuilding their relationship. One evening, as they sat on the couch in their penthouse, Marcus turned to Elena, his expression serious. "Elena," he said, his voice soft but firm, "I've been doing a lot of thinking about us, about our future." Elena's heart raced as she nodded, gesturing for him to continue. "What's on your mind?" Marcus took a deep breath, his eyes searching hers. "I want to start over. I want to build a life together, one that's based on trust and love. But we have to be honest with each other. No more secrets, no more lies." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears and she nodded. "I want that too, Marcus. More than anything." Marcus smiled, his eyes shining with hope. "Then let's do it. Let's start over." Over the next few months, Elena and Marcus worked together to rebuild their relationship. They went to counseling, where they learned to communicate better and to be honest about their feelings. They spent more time together, rediscovering the love and connection that had brought them together in the first place. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Eleanor turned to Marcus, her heart swelling with love. "Marcus," she said, her voice trembling with emotion, "I just want to say thank you for standing by me, for giving us a second chance." Marcus smiled, taking her hand in his. "I love you, Elena, and I'll always be here for you, no matter what." Elena's tears spilled over, and she leaned into him, feeling safe and loved for the first time in a long time. As the sun set and the stars began to twinkle in the sky, Eleanor and Marcus sat together, their hands intertwined. They'd been through so much, but they'd come out stronger on the other side. And as they looked out at the horizon, they knew that their future was bright. Elena and Marcus sat together on the porch, the soft glow of the sunset casting a warm light over their faces. The past few months had been a journey of healing, forgiveness, and rediscovery. They had faced their darkest moments and come out stronger, their love rekindled and their bond deeper than ever. Elena leaned her head on Marcus's shoulder, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I never thought we'd get here," she said softly, "but I'm so glad we did." Marcus smiled, wrapping his arm around her. "Me too, Elena. We've been through so much, but we made it, and I promise I'll never take you for granted again." Elena looked up at him, her eyes filled with love. "I believe you, Marcus, and I'm so proud of us for fighting for this." As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, they sat in comfortable silence, their hands intertwined. They knew there would still be challenges ahead, but they were ready to face them together. And that's the story of Elena and Marcus, a tale of love, betrayal, and second chances. We hope their journey touched your heart and reminded you of the power of forgiveness and the importance of trust in any relationship. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more heartfelt and dramatic tales like this one. Your support means the world to us, and we're so grateful to have you as part of our community. Until next time, remember, love is worth fighting for, but it's the trust and honesty we build along the way that truly make it last. Take care, and we'll see you in the next story.